Welcome, and thank you for listening to this episode of Leaps and Bounds. I'm your host, Tom Bash, and I'm thrilled to be bringing you conversations with some of the most successful CEOs, sales leaders, and home improvement professionals. When I started in this industry 20 years ago, tearing off roofs, I had no idea about what went into making a home improvement business successful. Now, having met with thousands of contractors, helping them adopt technology, and watching them grow, I'm excited to invite them on to share what's made them successful, what they're doing today to stay ahead of their competition, and the advice they have for others. As you look around, so many of the things we consider buying have a monthly payment associated with them. Whether it's our Netflix account, our cell phone, or our car, people look for affordable ways to obtain what they want. Why should home improvement be any different? On this episode, I'm joined by Brad Cobaugh, Consumer Finance Manager at West Shore Home. Brad didn't grow up wanting to be in the home improvement industry, but after gaining experience across multiple industries, he found a home at West Shore. Listen as we discuss the value of offering homeowners financing, the criteria by which to evaluate lenders, and the key metrics Brad looks at for success. We'll also discuss how to navigate dealer fees, why you should have multiple lenders, and how to incorporate financing into your business today. So without further ado, let's get this show started. Hey Brad, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, I'd love for you to give our audience a little bit of background on who Brad is. You know, what got you into home improvement? More specifically, maybe, what'd you do before this?
Sure. So I was didn't come from the construction side of the business. Matter of fact, if my wife asks me to do anything construction-wise around the house, that's not a good thing. That's definitely something I don't do well. My dad was awesome at it, so I can't blame my family, but I just never took to it. But I was much more sales-oriented. I started in the power sports industry, loved motocross, dirt bikes, started a little dealership locally and just cleaning, dirt bikes, motorcycles, toilets, whatever, just cleaned the place up. Went from there to parts, eventually managed parts, went into sales, liked sales, eventually became a salesman, did that for probably, 8 to 10 years. Kind of capped out there and just thought, okay, maybe I could make a little bit more money. So I went to the auto industry, started kind of over there and did the sales thing first, and then ended up being a finance manager. I like that, or a business manager, as they call it. And then eventually made my way to be a general sales manager at a Honda dealership for a couple years. Liked that industry. Also dabbled with Coca-Cola as an account manager for about 5 years. And they do, again, kind of selling stuff at Walmart's, big grocery stores, Martin's, Giants, all that stuff. Just had an opportunity. I started looking around and I really wanted to, again, for your family, try to make a little bit more money. And I kept seeing this, in the construction business, if you're an in-home sales rep, or as we call them, a design consultant, you could make, north of 6 figures, right? So I was like, okay, I want to do that. And so I did that for about 6 months as a design consultant at West Shore, and then eventually made my way to be a consumer finance manager because of my past experience. So that's kind of the long way here. But yeah, that's my path to West Shore Home Consumer Finance.
Wow. So you didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I want to be in home improvement.
Not at all. Not at all.
I always think it's interesting to ask people, how they get started in home improvement because, I talk to my 5-year-old daughter and 1 minute she wants to be a hairdresser and the next minute she wants to be an astronaut. And just so many different ideas, but she hasn't told me that she wants to be in home improvement yet. So I'm a little disappointed, but maybe we'll get there one day. But that's a really interesting path, to get to where you're at today. I'd love to dive in a little bit more. I know, when you were in the auto industry, you were doing some finance work there. What's different about the auto industry compared to the home improvement industry, and maybe what are some parallels between the two?
Sure. So I did a lot of time as a finance manager or business manager in the auto space. And then as soon as I got to the home improvement space and consumer finance, it's night and day. I mean, obviously you're still serving the customer, you're still trying to get approvals. So all of those things are the same. You're doing paperwork. You got to make sure you know, cross your T's and dot your I's. All the details matter in consumer finance. However, it's just completely two ends of the spectrum when it comes to the way that things happen. So consumer finance is used as a means to sell more. It's used as a means to adapt to someone's budget in the home improvement space, where what I mean by that is, so maybe I'm trying to do windows and doors in my house, but I don't want to do it for another year because I'm saving up. So maybe when I see a deferred interest plan, I can do it a little sooner and take advantage of the energy savings right away. Where in the auto space, it was the complete opposite. A bank gave me an interest rate, and I could either give the customer that same interest rate or, you know, maybe bump that by 0.5%, and I would get what they would call, you know, in the business, we call them a flat. So if you sold a $40,000 truck, maybe you made a couple $100 flat on that customer. Where in the home improvement space, it's the complete opposite. It's all about, okay, I need the approval, but how much do I have to pay that lender, percentage or dealer fee, we call it, to get that approval, to give that customer a certain APR that we think is attractive for them to say yes on our product offering.
Yeah, I'd love for you to expand a little bit more on sort of dealer fees. See, and this stat, you know, may be a little dated. I think it was a couple of years ago I heard that, you know, in the roofing industry, it's 3 to 7% of jobs are financed, whereas in the window and HVAC world, it's closer to 50 to 70% of jobs are financed. And I think one of the things that I hear, I'd say indirectly from customers is, you know, they don't offer financing because they don't know enough about it. And so they're scared of it. You know, they don't know how to incorporate a dealer fee. There's nuance in, you know, different rates and different plans and different terms, and all this jargon is sometimes foreign to folks that aren't accustomed to it. So I'd love for you to, you know, let our listeners know a little bit more about, you know, what's involved in dealer fees and some of the other nuances of financing.
Sure. So I think the most simplistic way to think of it is like this. Depending on what lender you're working with, it's gonna matter, because right, there's like what we would call 3 different tiers of buying lenders, right? So there's what we would call our super prime, and that's going to be all of the deferred interest, no payment with deferred interest, your lowest APRs. Then you're going to have what we would call prime lenders, right, or near prime, and they're going to have very similar terms, longer terms, pretty good interest rates, and maybe slightly higher dealer fees. And then, of course, we have what we call, you know, our subprime, or, you know, our third tier, which is going to be that higher interest rate, revolving account, maybe 18%, shorter terms, which is going to drive the payment a little higher. So they're all going to work differently, but I'm just going to talk on the dealer fees specifically on that super prime or the high prime stuff. Think of it like you get an approval, right? So you have an approval, and then depending on what you want to offer your customer, then you would basically pay that dealer fee accordingly. So if this company is saying, hey, look, we'll give you a 9.9 for 60 months at a 0% dealer fee, I could offer the customer that and just stick to that, or I could say, hey, look, maybe I want to go into a 7.9 because we think that's the part where people are going to get real attracted to that. And even more importantly, a 120-month payment. So now instead of having a $200 a month payment on a $10,000 project, now we're offering them a $100 a month payment on a $10,000 project. So it kind of takes the worry of that monthly payment away from the customer, and they can just pay on it a little bit faster to hopefully pay it off in 5 years. And that dealer fee might, you know, be 6% to buy that rate down to 7.9 and stretch the term. So it's really about finding what's right for your customers and your product.
Yeah, that's helpful. I guess tell me a little bit more, like when a sales or a design consultant is speaking with a homeowner, are they giving them options, like multiple options, a same as cash, a low monthly payment? Are they giving them multiple options, or are they sticking to some kind of criteria that based on these parameters we're going to offer this customer X, and this type of customer we're going to offer them Y? or do they across the board just give them different, multiple different options?
So there's a bunch of different ways people will recommend to do this. Some large banks believe that you should always offer, 3 or 4 options every time. We feel a little differently. So we have a sales process that at the beginning of the process, at some point, they're going to have a conversation of what the customer would like to see. So they should kind of have an idea when we get into the financing portion, whether that customer's same as cash. So when we say same as cash, what we mean by that is no payments and deferred interest for a certain amount of time. So a common one is 12 months, 18 months is a really good one. And I've been a part of some 24-month ones if things, if we want to get super aggressive. But you can imagine if a customer is dividing up their project by 12 or 18 months, the payments get, a little steeper. So really we teach our design consultants, really this is in place of a cash customer, that we're just giving them the incentive to move forward quicker. So they may have waited, a year, 2 years, and they might never have bought from us ever if we didn't offer them some sort of an incentive to go ahead and do it now while the interest is high, right? It's just like anything else in sales.
Yep.
You want to capture the business while they're interested.
Yep. No, it makes a lot of sense. Now, I know from having spoken with BJ, founder and CEO of West Shore Home, the company's very metrics driven, data driven. How do you incorporate that into what you do relative to the financing?
Sure. So a couple of different ways. So one way that we use the metrics to drive our business is with our lenders. So we're going to make sure that we're measuring their approval rates. We're going to make sure we're measuring how many times they fully accommodated the approval. And of course, like we just spoke about, dealer fees, right? So everyone has different dealer fees for different programs, and we got to make sure that those are in line with each other. Competition is good in that situation. And then the other part of the business that I'm going to measure is the performance of the design consultants with the lenders with my back office consumer finance team. So what I mean by that is I'm going to be checking, so on my dashboard every day when I open it up in the morning, I'm going to see a report that's going to say in-home fully accommodated today. So what's happening out in the market right now? I'm going to see what happened yesterday. I'm going to see what happened month to date as far as an in-home fully accommodated percentage. So I want to know yesterday we saw 120 deals sold that want financing, and in the home we got 78% approved, and so that leaves 30 jobs that customers were not approved, right? So we have a back office team that's all they're going to do is double check this, right? Because we could have a design consultant that's brand new that doesn't really know about consumer financing, and they just took the application wrong. Or maybe that customer has a great credit score, but one of our lenders, for whatever reason, the computer program that they get, approved or declined with just wasn't working properly in that situation, but their score is high, their income's good, and we don't see any reason as to why this shouldn't have been approved. We're going to make a phone call to that lender on our customer's behalf and try to get them the project that they want.
Yeah. Now, at West Shore, you guys work with a lot of different lenders, and I often see that contractors sort of get married to a lender, and I think it's interesting. I guess I'll call it like a stable of lenders that you guys have. How do you evaluate which lenders to bring into that stable? And I guess I'll ask you that first. My follow-up question will be, how do you manage that with your sales team? So I'll let you take the first one, then we can dive into the second part of that.
Yeah, so the evaluation process, who you bring in the stable. So a lot of these lenders were picked for me when I got here. But you're right, you do get married to them, right? Because there's some that you form relationships with. But I think it's important to be disciplined in looking at the numbers and recognizing, friendships are friendships, relationships are relationships. But at the end of the day, if lender A is performing at these rates and lender B is not, that doesn't necessarily mean we want to throw lender B out, right? Because things fluctuate, but you just have to have conversations with that lender B and say, hey, here's a similar And again, you have to compare. If you're not bringing the information in, it could be skewed because one could have a better approval rate, but you're giving them all of the best paper, right? You're giving them all of the best credit. So you've got to make sure you have your metrics straight if you're going to have those conversations. But the way that we see it is technology first, right? So you want someone who can do things fast like us. Our motto's always been don't blink. So we want someone who's technology fast, and it's not going to get in the way of us being fast. I know you mentioned DJ earlier, and his big thing is just kind of keep pushing, right? So he wants to be a different type of home improvement brand, right? But the thing is even though our numbers are huge, he preaches we got to do it one home at a time, right? That's how it happens, one home at a time. And we just have to be really fast at getting that one home pushed through the system as quick as possible. So from design consultant to installation, he wants to just keep, shrinking that time. Lenders are a huge part to that. So that's one of the things that we look at whenever we're trying to see what lenders are going to be right for us.
Yeah. So I imagine, as I'm thinking in my head of like, if I had a checklist of things I'm looking for in a lender, I imagine you're looking at, what is the dealer fee? What's their approval rate? Like you said, the technology aspect of it. Is there anything else that you're looking at when you're evaluating a lender? And, even based on those different criteria, I imagine you have some lenders that are in that, prime space, some are in the subprime space. And you have to, have a healthy balance of those. How does West Shore go about, maintaining that balance and making sure that you do have the right horses in the stable? I'm going to stick with that analogy.
Nice. That works. Yeah, no, we want fast horses, right? That's good. Thoroughbreds.
Right.
So we just want to make sure we have the right mix of, like you mentioned, and I had mentioned before. So you have those super prime lenders, right? So that's your, the Green Skies, the Service Finance, the Dividends, Synchrony, Wells Fargo, all those lenders, right? So those are the ones that want to buy the premium stuff. And then underneath there, you're going to have your second look stuff, right? So that's going to be, your Castle Finance, your Foundation, your Aquas, PowerPay, all of those that are going to still give them extended terms, right, out to 10 years. But instead of getting maybe a 5% dealer fee for that, 7.9 or 8.9% rate, they're going into, they want 10% or 15%, right? Because this is a customer's a little more risky. And then, of course, you have your Fortiva. So what we like to try to do is make sure we have at least two of those lenders in each of those tiers, right? Because if one falls off or changes the way they're doing business, we just have to flex over to the next. So one of the things whenever we put those lenders in there is we want to make sure, the same things that we want for our customers, right? So we have a set of core values, and we expect all of our design consultants to be 100% upfront with every customer and tell them the truth all the time. Whether that's good or bad, it's always got to be the truth. And we expect nothing less from, our partners, in this situation, our lenders. We want to make sure that they're being truthful with us, we're being truthful with them, and it works for both parties, right? It can't be all West Shore, all West Shore, all West Shore. It's got to win for both parties, or else it's going to be a short-term program, right? If it doesn't mix right and they can't, stay in business at the rates that we're paying and the approval rates and all that good stuff that the customers are paying, it's only going to be a short-term fix, and we're not looking for that. We're looking for something we can duplicate and replicate and build on top of, because, as you know, I said you talked to DJ, we've grown, just exponentially, over the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so with that growth, and we, mentioned the design consultants in the home, how do they go about managing this, stable of lenders that you have? I mean, are they just submitting an application to everybody, or I imagine there's some kind of process in place? How do you go about, managing that with the team?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we manage that is we have what we call our, a guide, right? So we're gonna make sure in writing something visual that they can see that clearly lays out what they need to do. Because obviously we have, I think we're touching almost 400 design consultants here soon. So when you're dealing with that many design consultants, you can't rely that all the sales managers have given the proper direction, right? So we have a very clear page, and I'll throw something really nice out here. It's in Leap Resources. So it's nice because they're already quoting out their project, right? And in Leap Resources, that plan guide's right there for them to see when they run their application. And all it's going to do is tell them, here's the first lender you're going to try. And if you get what you're looking for, you're done. If you didn't get, all the money or what you think is the right rate for the customer, go to lender 2. And we only ask them to do 3 lenders in the home because we want to cover that super prime, and then of course like that prime, that near prime, and then of course subprime, just to make sure every one of our customers has an opportunity to go ahead and get the money they need for the project that they want to do.
Yeah, that's great. That certainly I think is in the homeowner's best interest to make sure that you're giving them the best shot possible. You touched a little bit on the growth at West Shore. What kind of growth have you seen, and how do folks that are interested in I don't want to say jumping into home improvement, because I feel like when a lot of people think home improvement, they're thinking they're going to be up there on a roof swinging a hammer, or they're going to be installing a bathroom, and there's so much more to it than that aspect. And if that's what you want to do, that's great too, right? Like those are needed positions as well. But West Shore is a rather large company and a ton of opportunity. So I'd love if you can just tell us a little bit more about sort of the growth you've seen there, and how interested people can learn more about West Shore.
Yeah, most definitely. So like every place else, we have our website, westshorehome.com. You can go to our careers page. I would highly encourage anybody who isn't satisfied with where they're working and is driven, right? So you have to be the right fit for us as well as we want to be the right fit for you. It's not always a perfect partnership. But yeah, one of the things that gravitated me to this company was just simply the way they go at things, right? So a lot of companies talk the talk, so to speak. I'll use a terrible cliche. This company truly does walk the walk. So when they say something, they mean it. It's not just, oh, well, this is what we expect from you. And if you're not doing what you're expected, you will be let go. I mean, there's no questions about it. However, that being said, I look at growth and I can dazzle you with some big numbers. I mean, like huge numbers that they blow my mind every day because I'm looking at them all the time. We've been in the consumer finance position a little over a year. So I saw my first $1 million day and I was like, wow, that's crazy. Then I saw my first $2 million day. Like, wow, it's just like astronomical. But I think the number that I'm most impressed with, in the last year, we've increased our staff by 82%.
Wow.
And what that means is the company, to me, what it means is the company is so focused on the customer, right? Like they want to make sure this customer experience is unbelievable. So I just fell in love with that mindset, right? Like I've been at other companies and I've been at a lot of great companies, Coca-Cola, that's a huge company. Honda, automobiles, they're awesome. But this company does everything right, the way that I would think I would do it if I had a pocketbook and could afford to do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, I hear a lot of great things about West Shore. I know, BJ's got a good plan to aggressively grow the business and continue to expand the footprint. And so I imagine there's always there's going to be some good opportunities here in the near future to continue to grow with that company. So that's really good to hear. I always love when there's companies in this industry doing really good things and putting the homeowner first and emphasizing their culture and their team. So really good to hear that. We're gonna wrap this up here real shortly, but I wanted to touch back to one other thing that we were talking about, and it was around like the KPIs and some of the metrics. We talked metrics driven, data driven, and I know that you guys have a finance reject rate, and I'd love to just touch on what that is and why it's important.
Yeah, sure. So that's kind of like the big overarching piece, right? Because that's going to measure a couple things. So one of the things that we measure is what we call a payment mix. right? Like, and you alluded to it before. How many jobs come in sold or cash? How many jobs are financed? So all these little metrics are going to kind of come into one big metric, KPI, which is what you said, the FR rate or the finance reject rate. So that's definitely something I'm directly responsible for, because there's a couple of different ways that you can control that, right? You got to make sure you have great lenders, and you got to make sure that the design consultants are very well trained, right? So that they understand the lenders' programs that are available, and then they're giving the lenders the best opportunity to approve that customer, right? So it all starts with a good, clean credit application and making sure that we're getting that stuff right at the home. It's driving that FR rate, in the right direction, because bad training can be good or bad, right? And if it's badly trained, it can drive your FR rate the opposite way.
Yep, that makes sense. So as we wrap up here, there's a lot of companies out there that don't offer financing, or maybe think they offer financing because they have it as like a last resort, to maybe try to save a deal or close somebody. But, I think for a lot of companies that are looking at incorporating financing, they're going to want to evaluate a lender. And we talked a good bit about kind of what some things are to look for and why it's important to have multiple lenders that can service a variety of FICO bands. And then also, addressing why financing is important. But I'd love for you to let our audience know, like, what else should they be looking for as they look to, incorporate financing into their business?
Sure. So we get this a lot. I'll hear somebody say, they can't afford to pay an additional 5 or 8%, dealer fee on this project. That's crazy. And we don't expect anyone to, just blanketly, go to a customer and go, hey, I'll give you a cash price of this, and we're going to add 10% if you want to finance it. That's not how this is working. That extra percentage that we pay, we hold ourselves accountable to drive more business, right? That's how you afford those dealer fees. It's not about just packing it onto the business you're already doing. It's about saying, hey, look, there's a lot of customers out here that really want our product and service, but they just can't pull the trigger right now. So they're saving right now. They're putting some money in their piggy bank, in the bank, right? If we gave them a way that this project could fit into their budget right now, and then we aggressively marketed to that customer, and we had our design consultants trained to be able to explain to them the benefits of this financing program, we think it's a win for that customer. Like, who doesn't want to have something that they're going to do? It's a lifetime project, right? Windows. Like, you're not buying 50 sets of windows, right? You're buying one set of windows for your house, probably, more than likely, unless you move. So if you could put them in now versus 2 years from now when you saved up the money, I mean, tell me one person when you show them an energy savings in this who's going to refuse it if it fits into their budget. That's the key, right? You got to have the right financing lender that has the right programs that fits that cost. I would look there first, because too many people get wrapped up in dealer fees, right? So I always say this: anyone can give me a dealer fee that's low and give me a low approval rate, right?
Right.
You have to make sure it's the right lender. Start with your customer. If you're thinking about your customer first, you're always going to win. And then just try to adapt. Now, you want to make sure that you use competition, healthy competition, to drive your dealer fee as low as you can, but don't sacrifice the approval rate. Make sure you tell them, look, I want to have, good low dealer fees, but most importantly, I want to make sure I make happy customers. I need a high approval rate to do that.
Yeah. Yep. That's great. It's really good advice. And I know this is going to resonate with a lot of people, because, like I said, financing is, I believe, very underutilized in the home improvement space. So, aside from what we've discussed, everybody's buying things with a monthly payment in mind, right? It's how we buy our cell phones, our cars. Everything's got these monthly payments attached to it. And when you're looking at doing a home improvement project, and you're looking at a $4,000 or a $20,000 sticker, it's a lot different than if you're looking at a $100, $200 monthly payment. So I definitely think it's important for people to incorporate that into their proposals and their estimates, and give customers the ability to buy the way they want to buy. Brad, really appreciate the time today. I know our audience is going to appreciate it too. So with that, I'll say thank you and appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you very much. And please thank everybody at Leap. I know our design consultants love the additional credit application portal you guys have done. So it saves them a ton of time in the home. So thank all those folks at Leap as well from West Shore Home. We couldn't do it without you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it. Well, that'll do it for today's show. I truly hope you enjoyed this episode of Leaps and Bounds. If you did, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review and subscribe to the podcast. We look forward to bringing you more exclusive conversations with some of the most successful home improvement leaders. If you're interested in learning more about Leap, be sure to check us out at leaptodigital.com or follow one of our social channels. Until next time, see you.